What have you learned from your audience feedback? Well, from my animatic, it was said that it was quite good, that it was quite scary, that the use of the shorter shots make it a bit faster pace wise. It really kind of speeds it up quite a lot towards the end of the animatic, and that that really long bass tone with the booms at the end work really well together to make that kind of that jumpiness towards the end of the teaser trailer animatic. However, they also did say, audience feedback, that they would hope to have seen more complicated sound. They would have hoped to have heard a bit more of a kind of varied amount of sound and the sort of different sounds I'd use, and they'd have hoped more speech would have been in it, more of the dialogue, more of the voiceover would have been in there. But on the whole, they said it was quite good. They were all 17 to 18. They were all middle class. They all had an interest in horror. So then they all said that it was good. Good is the word that they'd use. Not exceptional, not terrible. There was more stuff to do. They said, adding in a few more shots, perhaps, say, having a couple more of the janitor or the caretaker towards the beginning, and a few more of Jenny's face and of her running to show that fear, and that sort of kind of whole kind of feeling of the chasing aspect. They said they would have liked to have seen a bit more, and maybe more in terms of the jump cuts, instead of having that few, having more of those as well. And the main thing they did say was to have more complicated sounds. So that sort of thing, I think I learned from my animatic, is that it is just just a draft. It's just a main draft. So it's always gonna have to be reworked. You'll never get a fantastic, perfect animatic, and there'll always be things that you could do in the production stages that you can alter from the animatic. And it's not like a Bible that you have to stick to throughout the whole production process. You can change it, add to it, and take away from it. So it was really good to get that audience feedback on my animatic, that it was all right. So for my real thing, for the teaser trailer, again, my audience said it was quite good, but they would like to have seen more of Jenny, and less of the caretaker's face. So and that the jump shots needed to have sound going throughout them, so don't have any kind of no underscore through in the jump shots. So that's something that I changed, and maybe that it was a bit slow in the middle of the teaser trailer, and that they could have hopefully would have seen a wider variety of shots needed, and maybe a different kind of, maybe a few more long shots or tracking shots. They may have quite liked to see that, but I think the audience feedback for me was a fantastic asset to have for my main teaser trailer, because it really did kind of open to my eyes, and the sort of thing that the audience really, really wanted. And I throughout my audience kind of feedback throughout the whole planning and process stage, to have with what they'd expect from a horror film, and what they'd want from a horror film. I tried to put that in there, with having the female protagonist is kind of weak and vulnerable, and having the main protagonist a bit scary and older and a bit uglier, hopefully. That typical stereotype. I tried to put that in there, but essentially what the audience wanted was more of it. And so that for me has told me, and I've learned that I just need to put more of the real hardcore conventions in there. And if I want to have a few nuances in there, like the jump shots that you don't normally see in teaser trailers, I can do that. Just don't make that big a deal out of it, and have more focused on the conventions that the audience are expecting and willing to see, and what they want to see. So also for my movie poster for my film No Way Out, the audience feedback was, again, generally it was a good poster. They liked the integration of the image with the top and bottom boundaries of black, but they wanted red to stand out more. I think that my target audience specific words were just like not jumpy enough, doesn't grab my attention enough. So hopefully, change that up a bit, made it a bit brighter, and hopefully that's worked. That sort of thing they wanted was to just kind of have all of this stuff thrown at them. They wanted to have all of the excitement of the teaser trailer on the poster, and that's something I strived for, and I think I achieved it quite well, because I had things like the building block not very visible, and I had the red in there, and that striking main image. So I think that worked quite well. Some of the other things they said was that the main title was possibly too far apart. They need to be close together. That the tagline above the main title was kind of looking like it was going in towards Amy Harvey's mouth, which wasn't good. So that needed to be moved around a bit, and that the actors' forenames were too high, and they need to be moved closer to the surnames. Also, from the director of 17 at the very top of the poster wasn't very visible, and so those are the sort of things that I learned. I need to make sure that whilst I didn't want taglines and kind of forenames of actors and kind of from the directors of and all that thing to be too visible, I didn't want them to be invisible, which is what they ended up being, and they couldn't really kind of be distinguished from just where they were, and it just didn't really stand out at all. So it was hard to read. Also, with the tagline of the film, that I think was possibly in the wrong place, and I could have used that somewhere else, because of the fact that it looked as though it was going into Amy's mouth. So I think that was the sort of thing I could have changed if I had enough time to do it again. I'd move that up to maybe the top half of the poster and put that at the very top of the poster and change the from director of. So that's the sort of thing I'd do if it was coming to the movie poster. For my magazine front cover, there was a bit of criticism for the main image, and my target audience wanted it to be Imi. They wanted it to be the character Jenny, which kind of disappointed me a little bit, because I wanted to go for the whole kind of that. What inspired me to do kind of disappointed me a little bit, because what inspired me to have Giles' character of the caretaker as the main image was the Dark Knight front cover of Empire, where they had the Joker, Heath Ledger, as the main image. So I was kind of going for that sort of vibe, but it just didn't work apparently, and that's fair enough. That's absolutely fine. And so my target audience wanted to have the main character as the image for the magazine front cover, which it does make sense. So I had a gamble with the photo being Giles, and it didn't pay off, but that's that. So also it doesn't look as slick as some of the front covers that you see. Perhaps the texts was too simplistic, and the colour scheme didn't work very well together. These are all things, like kind of paraphrasing, these are all things that my target audience have said to me about this magazine front cover. They've said, that the text is too blocky, the colours again are too blocky, it doesn't have any depth to it, it's all very 2D, which again is something I kind of wasn't hoping to achieve. I was going for the whole bold, brash sort of look at me ideas, but it didn't work out. I think they wanted something that looks a bit more professional, I suppose, a bit more like a mixture of Empire and Sight and Sound, as opposed to just Bam Empire, which is kind of what I was going for. And also they wanted more diversity in the cover lines, as opposed to just shouting out movie names and talking about Blu-ray. I think my target audience nowadays, especially, being young adults and eventually adults, wanted to have kind of a bit wider ranging things, as opposed to just films and stuff. Maybe have kind of featurettes of a genre, things like that. And I tried to go for that, but it just didn't work. And also the main cover line wasn't very punchy. It didn't grab the attention. It didn't catch the eye. And that's something I was kind of upset about. But it's what the target audience said. They said that having the grey as the main cover line didn't really work, because of the fact the picture itself was dark, and it didn't just jump out to the eye, which is what it should do. And I completely agree. And perhaps a different font for the main cover line as well, because that too was kind of thin, and it wasn't really kind of bold and scary, or anything to do with the film, which was, again, that's it's a good criticism, but it's something that I could work on next time, if there is a next time. And it's just having that audience feedback really kind of helps to show me that it shouldn't just go for one thing. It's better to have kind of a mixture, and that did kind of come through with the initial audience feedback about horror as the genre. They preferred a mixture of blood and gore and kind of tenseness and atmosphere. And I should probably could have transferred that to my poster and my magazine front cover, but you know, it didn't work, and that's just what happens sometimes.